It's not a sleigh pulled by reindeer, we hear they're in training for the 24th, but that is Santa aboard, and there's a lot of meaning behind a special trip he made recently to the capital of Guatemala. This is an event for children who have serious health conditions like leukemia. They're patients at a place called Haciel Refuge. For the 5th year, a local restaurant owner has organized a Christmas party for them, and about 35 children and their mothers gathered there to meet Santa, receive gifts, and enjoy some holiday cheer. The restaurant's manager says it's a reward to see the young patients get excited to see St. Nick in the helicopter and to take part in the activities they organize. He says for a moment, the kids forget about their treatment. And one mother there repeatedly gave thanks for the joy this event brought to the children. Hi, I'm Azuz, and this is the world from A to Z. So happy to have you watching our penultimate program of the year. After tomorrow, we will be off the air till January, but in the meantime, in between time, we're getting you up to speed on world events. That includes new developments in the Red Sea. It's the body of water you see here to the west of the Middle Eastern nation of Yemen. A group of rebels there that are supported by Iran have been using missiles, drones, and other methods to attack international ships. Why is this happening? In protest of the Middle Eastern war between Israel and Hamas, the rebels in Yemen who support Hamas say they'll attack any ships that they think are heading to Israeli ports. Why is this significant? Thousands of ships pass through the Red Sea each year. Many use the Suez Canal to move between this body of water and the Mediterranean. What is the response? US and British ships shot down 15 attack drones on Saturday alone. America and its allies in the region are reportedly planning to increase their military presence in the Red Sea to convince shipping companies that the Red Sea is safe. However, several of those companies, including the world's largest, have announced that they're suspending their shipping operations in the region. Why does that matter when they could just sail around southern Africa? It costs more to do that. It can hurt the economy of Egypt, which profits from use of the Suez Canal. It could lead to new problems with the global supply chain of goods and services. What happens if countries respond forcefully to the rebels in Yemen, attacking them in return? One major international concern is that the war between Israel and Hamas will spread to directly involve other countries in that region and abroad. So far, it's largely been limited to Israel and the Hamas-controlled territory of Gaza. That's why what's happening in the Red Sea is being watched so closely around the world.
Tesla launching a massive recall to update the autopilot feature in millions of cars to make sure drivers stay attentive when they're using it.
This is a really big deal because with 2 million cars on the road, it impacts just about every Tesla that's on the road right now.
The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration said Tesla's popular autopilot feature can give drivers a false sense of security and be easily misused in certain dangerous situations when the technology might not be able to safely navigate the road.
It can steer and accelerate and brake automatically in its lane on the highways, but it cannot drive itself, despite what it's called.
Tesla says it will update the software wirelessly. Once it's updated, drivers will receive more warnings when they're not paying attention to the road when the autopilot's auto steer function is turned on.
Tesla's fixes include additional measures like visual alerts, simplified controls, and other checks to kind of make sure the driver really knows what's going on.
The cars may also disengage the auto steer feature when the software determines the driver is not paying attention. Patrick George, editor-in-chief of Inside EVs, says it's important for drivers to educate themselves and understand the limitations of the technology.
I think above all, just be willing to and ready to step in and take the wheel when you need to, because these cars are not capable of driving themselves yet.
I'm Ivan Rodriguez reporting.
Experts estimate that around 1% of all the cars currently on the road in America are electric, and not all of those are Teslas. But EV sales have been steadily growing for years, especially when it comes to new cars. Tesla is the biggest seller of electric cars in the US, and autopilot is a popular feature. Despite the accidents blamed on it, which in some cases have been deadly, the company says its data shows crashes are significantly fewer for drivers who use Tesla's autopilot technology than for drivers who don't. The company also says it's made clear to drivers that whether or not they use the auto steer feature, they're still always in ultimate control of the car. Some critics have suggested that Tesla changed the name Autopilot, arguing that drivers might misunderstand and misuse the technology. The recall applies to all 4 Tesla models sold in America. On this date in world history. December 18th, 1620, a ship called the Mayflower landed at what's now Plymouth Harbor, Massachusetts. For the pilgrims on board, a rough voyage was behind them and a brutal winter was ahead of them, but they were successful in establishing the first permanent colony in New England. On this date in 1892, the Nutcracker Ballet made its debut in St. Petersburg, Russia. Historians say Peter Tchaikovsky's work, which was based on an adapted short story, got mixed reviews at first, but the Christmas-time ballet and musical score became immensely popular across the world.
Word of mouth. Remington, Royal, and Underwood are all historic brands of what? Automobiles, hair products, honey, typewriters. All of these companies once manufactured typewriters, many of which are now sold as antiques.
You're probably familiar with the work of Ernest Hemingway, who used a typewriter to create literary scenes. You might not be familiar with Paul Smith, who used one to create literal scenes. But Smith isn't the only artist to use a typewriter's ink and keys as a medium. Here's a man inspired by Smith, who's creating artwork one keystroke at a time.
Since 2014, the last 8 years, I've just been slowly learning how to make drawings, but it never gets any easier. It's always a challenge. I couldn't draw people's faces before doing typewriter art. In fact, I probably draw people better on a typewriter than I can draw freehand in sort of pen or pencil, just because I've done so many portraits. Depending on what you're typing, you'll use specific keys and you'll puzzle piece them together to make the drawing to represent the subject. So if it's a portrait of, someone's face, for example, you'll use for the pupils of the eyes, you want to recreate that sort of curvature of their eyes, so I'll use like a bracket symbol. Whereas, if it's the shading, that you're trying to recreate someone's skin complexion, I will use the @ symbol because it has quite a large surface area and you can do blending with larger symbols. There's something really satisfying about kind of using this sort of limited palette of, you basically have about 44 keys on a typewriter on average, so you've got to kind of puzzle piece those letters, numbers, punctuation marks together to make a drawing. When available, I'll try and work outside as much as I can, so normally a conversation kind of sparks from people seeing the drawings.
For him to be able to turn it into, a work of art for painting and drawings, I think is just amazing. So it's fascinating what he does, and it's nice to see that the old is not dead yet.
North, South, East, and West are all represented in these 2 schools. Starting with West Seneca East Senior High School. It's located in West Seneca, New York, and it's where Miss Dorado's class is watching. Great to see y'all there. And moving west, we come to South St. Paul, where Mr. Westfall is watching in the North Star State. We're moving in every direction, y'all. Shout out to our viewers at South St. Paul Middle School in Minnesota.
A family is grateful to be reunited with its beloved cat after the furry feline strayed 200 miles from its home. It apparently stowed away on a truck hauling hay bales all the way to Green, New York. You gotta be kidding me. The nice foster family took to Facebook to find the owners, and find them they did all the way back in New Jersey.
Where'd you go?
Home sweet home for the holidays. Or take a look at this. I'm Jeremy Rod.
For an animal whose breeds include Australian, Egyptian, German, Himalayan, Japanese, Javanese, Norwegian, Persian, Scottish, Siberian, and Turkish, It makes sense they're not always Siamese to find if they turn bobtail and run toward California, Havana, Maine, or the Savannah. And when they finally hop a Turkish van and makes their way back home, nobody catechises them, even if they get there looking like a ragamuffin. I'm Carl Azuz for the World from A to Z, and I'm not kidding when I say we have one more show ahead for the year. We hope to see you tomorrow. You mean the world to us.